Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Usual, the game is War Thunder, and welcome once again to some Lunchtime Tankery. Today's focus is the Jagdpanzer 38T, the infamous Hetz. This vehicle is a bit of an oddity. It's also one of the longest running designs in World War II. It started its life as the Panzer 38T, a Czech design, hence the T designation in the name. That has nothing to do with weight. And in 1940 this was a pretty decent little light tank, 10 tons plus or minus, 12.5 horsepower to the ton, 42 kph top speed, 50mm of armour, yeah I know that sounds like a joke when you're used to tier 4 plus tanks, and a 37mm gun that could deal adequately with anything it was likely to run into, short of possibly a Matilda 2 or a Sharby 1 Biz, but you had Stukas and 88s for those. Unfortunately, it was a very, very small tank, to the extent that, if I flick on X-ray view, you can see that the commander is actually also the gunner. This chap here has to pull double duty, and well, if he got any closer to the loader, it would be illegal in at least 3 states. All of which caused the Wehrmacht a bit of a problem when 1941 rolled around, and M3s and T-34s suddenly became a factor. The 37mm gun really wasn't up to it anymore, but there simply wasn't the room in the turret to install a 75, and the turret ring wasn't big enough to allow for a bigger turret, so when everyone else was saying go 75 or go home, well, the Panzer 38T pretty much had to go home. Temporarily. Thing is, the chassis was proven, it was reliable, pretty much by the standards of World War II tanks at least, and the Germans had plenty of them. The Czech factory was more or less out of range of Allied bombers at that point, what little was going on, and they were churning these things out by the dozen, indeed possibly by the 100. So the end result was to rip off the turret and fit an anti-tank gun of decent calibre instead, and you got the Marder 3 series. As you can see, that's basically what they did. You can see the chassis is still pretty much the same, right down to the machine gun and the crew positioning. The turret is gone, and the superstructures had some steel welded onto it to form a fighting compartment, and the Pak 36 76mm 3-inch gun has been fitted. That gave enough tank killing power to be effective right the way up until 1944 against most tanks. About the only things it would struggle against at range were the Churchills, the KVs at extreme ranges, and the Sherman Jumbos as and when those came in. But this came with its own problems. For one thing, this is a very tall vehicle. I mean, the 38T tops out at about the top of that fighting compartment, and then you've got the actual anti-tank gun compartment on top of that. So trying to get this thing hull down, yeah, that was a bit of a problem unless you had time to dig yourself a tank scrape. The other problem, of course, was survivability. This is an open-topped vehicle. The enemy starts dropping artillery on you, fun times do not ensue. Additionally, that gun mantlet, that's only 11mm thick. The good news is that that probably won't trigger the fusing on an armour-piercing high-explosive shell. That's where the good news stops, however, because 11mm of steel, well, any anti-tank gun you care to name will go straight through it, and frankly, straight through the gunner, or the loader, or the gun breech, or all 3 of them, depending on the angle if you're really unlucky. And it's questionable against even rifle caliber machine guns, never mind 50 cal. So the problem was, well, okay, we've now got enough firepower, but our survivability isn't worth squat once the guns start shooting back. Net result in 1943 and 1944 was the Hetz. The tank has been converted down into a casemate tank destroyer. It's been fully enclosed, and most importantly of all, the armour has been increased on the front. This is a 60mm plate set at 60 degrees on the top, 120mm of straight steel. This thing is better protected than a Tiger 1 from the front. Just to give you some context there. On the lower glacis, it is 60mm at 40 degrees, not quite so good, but against a long-range shot from most anti-tank weapons, that will still give you a chance. The downside is that the flank armour sticks. 20mm straight steel on the lower sides, 20mm at 40 degrees on the upper side. On the rear you have got 10mm at 68 degrees, some sources say 8mm, and 20mm on the back protecting the engine compartment. Tracks for bonus armour of 15mm in a couple of places. Basically, if you get flanked in this thing, you're dead, because look at the internal layout. About the only thing that isn't going to explode, catch fire, or go squish, or potentially all three, is the radiator. Other than that, you've got fuel tanks, engine, crew, ammunition, transmission, all neatly packaged up, and much like the Stuggy, if you get penetrated on the front left, then that's an instant KO, as the driver, the commander, and the gunner all get knocked out in one easy shot. So that's the downside. Survivability absolutely blows on this thing if you get targeted. On the bright side, the gun itself is pretty decent, the 75mm Panzerabwehrkanone 39. As far as the ammunition goes, the Panzergranate 39 will do you quite nicely in most situations. This is a 4.7 rated tank. Worst you're going to face is a Tiger or a mid-war T-34. Penetration-wise, that's not an issue. You can go through a Tiger's front armour at 1,000 metres with the stock round. With the Panzergranate 40, you can go through them at a mile, 1,500 metres, and you've got the Heat B round. For some reason, we don't get the Heat C. 80mm penetration, not great, but it will engage nicely against almost any slope of armour you care to name. Typically, however, you'll stick with the Panzergranate 39 for the most part, and retain the Panzergranate 40 for high-angle engagements. Bear in mind that critical angle of attack on this thing is 24 degrees compared to 42 degrees on the Panzergranate 39. That's really the only reason you'd switch to the Panzergranate 40 and trade off the explosive damage. So, enough talking I think, let's get this thing into battle and see if we can go hetzing. While we're waiting for us, it's worth noting that Hetzer as a name doesn't appear in any of the official documentation. It's always the Jagdpanzer 38T. The name Hetzer first appears in relation to a similar vehicle, the E10 prototype. There seems to have been a mix-up at the Skoda factory where these were being built, and the 38T was issued with the name. The first units started using it, and it also appears in a briefing that Guderian wrote up for Hitler. And the name appears to have stuck from there. It's not clear how widespread it ever was in the actual war. So, we've got ourselves a domination map in Berlin. Late war, we'll see what the game rates out as. As I say, this is a 4.7 vehicle. I've also got a 4H and a Stug 3G in my lineup, so 4.7 across the board. Worst we're going to hit are the Tiger ones at 5.7. Let's also switch the ammunition load. As I say, lose the heat, lose the high X. We're going to load up with 31 rounds of Panzergranate 39 and 10 rounds of Panzergranate 40 just as backup. Normal safety measure of only taking a half load doesn't really apply in this vehicle. As I've observed, if you get hit and penetrated, you're dead anyway. And this is where one of the Hetz's downsides immediately comes into play. The extra armour and the improved gun hauled the weight up to 15 tons, 16 tons give or take. It's only got 160 horsepower on the engine. You've got about 10 horsepower to the ton. Acceleration is not great compared to a regular battle tank, but on the bright side you can still get it up to a decent lick if you've got good terrain. So we're doing 30 kph over the rubble-choked streets of Berlin, 22, 23, 24. Listed top speed is, of course, 41 kph. I'm going to get myself out on the flanks. We'll swing round by the Kroll Opera House and Point C, and we'll just see how things go from there. Trundle, trundle, trundle. Rest of the team is shaking out towards A for the most part, and the Reichstag, I wish them joy. They're going to hook up on that corner. You can actually see a couple of our tank destroyers stopping on the minimap, most notably my teammate. So, we're most of the way down, just coming into D1. About time to hook left and start pushing forwards through the rubble towards the Kroll Opera and Point C. Hostile teams charge the Reichstag and the centre of the Platz at B, so they're going to be getting into position. We've got a 4J moving up in support. Why are you driving a J, man? Why are you driving a J when you can be driving an H? Some people I won't understand. Maybe he just hasn't looked at the numbers. The J, of course, is the cheap and cheerful, or more accurately, cheap and nasty version of the Panzer IV-H. They simplified a lot of things to ease production and make the vehicle easier to build. Unfortunately, that entailed getting rid of, amongst other things, the powered turret drive. So the Panzer IV-J's traverse rate, yeah, that stinks really rather badly. Anyhow, let's pull out, see what we get. Something just blitzed past at speed. A T-50. I have no idea what a T-50 is doing in a game of 4.7, but never mind, he'll do to open accounts. There's something else out there as well. Panzer IV F2. Come on, comrade, stick your head out. Target's undamaged, but that might persuade him to budge. There we go. Got you. Wrecked his horizontal traverse, but that's not going to help very much. Let's see if he pulls out again. Come on, mate. You're behind that brick wall, and we all know it. Problem is, I don't dare go and get him, simply because if I do... never mind, someone else got round and got him. And we've got artillery coming down. Terrific. Okay, let's move. Like all casemated destroyers, you're very vulnerable since you've got no turret. So, if the enemy gets your location, it's time to be somewhere else. T-28? What the bloody hell's going on in this game? Panzer IIIL. Fine by me. Trail on. Nailed his engine, set him on fire. Taking a hit, but I've almost reloaded. Someone else got the kill, fine. Back up hard, that's an M18 Hellcat laying on to me. Hetz will not be hetzing for very long if that thing gets a shot, and I'm not going to stick my head out of there immediately again. Unlike a regular tank, you can't really do peekaboo in these things. It takes too long to get turned round and engaged with a target. So, time to move. Come on, come on, come on. Get this thing turned. Get this thing turned. God, I'm missing the horsepower. Accelerate. Go, 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 go. Right. So there was a tank destroyer to the south of our position. Now that Hellcat's a lot faster than we are, of course, 80 kilometers per hour to my 40. But on the other hand, if he sticks his head out just once, we might be able to do something. There we go. And indeed, that was exactly the mistake he made. But one of our buddies got the shot. So, let's back up, turn round, and re-engage again. Panzer IV-E. Well, we might be able to do something with that. No, I tell a lie, it's a G series. Okay. The E is in fact braking right towards us. So, let's back up. He's trying to cut left onto the flank, so we'll move over here, get past this building, pitch round, and if we can get the gun turned and laid on, when he comes round that corner, we are in position to give him a very nasty surprise. Critical hit, killed his gun crew, and someone else bags the assist. Don't care. We're laying onto this E. Fire, hit, but he catches a bounce. Not very much he can do to us. That Panzer IV only has the short 75. Critical hit, nail his gun crew. He's moving again, but he will probably stop at this building. I am in fact going to chase him down. As I said, 60 degrees, 60 millimeters, 120 straight. There's not a lot he can do if he's driving a Panzer IV-E and I have my front armor to him. So let's go hunt this guy down. Hello, sir. Hetz is going to Hetz, but I have just made a fatal mistake. He is going to get his flank armor. That 75 can get through. Come on, get the damn gun round. Don't even ask me why he didn't fire. I have no idea. Maybe I Actually, I know what happened. I think I caught his loader as well. T-34 coming off their spawn point. Tricky shot, but might get something. Missed front, I think. Might be able to get a shot. Might. Oh, come on. Reload. Give me a decent angle. Boom. Bingo. Into the side of his turret. Only hit his vision block, sadly. I've got a telegraph pole in the way. On the other hand, he's now trying to work out where that round came from. Come on, push round. There we go. Taking a risk here, exposing. He's aiming at me. Bugger. Fine. Shot again. Caught something. Not sure quite what, but he's moving forwards, trying to push up. Fine. He runs into one of my buddies and I think dies horribly. Let's aim up on this Panzer 3L. Boom. Direct hit, but bounced off his engine deck. It was a bit of a long shot. So, what to do. Stuggy time! Hello, sir. Just remember that front left side of the Stug, yeah, that's vulnerable if someone gets a shot at your driver's viewport. Fine. Not a lot else I can do from here, I think. And in fact, somebody is capturing point C. So I think our T-34 friend isn't as dead as I thought he was. So let's get turned round and just drive. Taking a massive risk, of course, here. Luckily, nothing was in a position to take a flank shot at me. We're going to come charging around this corner. And at this point, things get tricky. I don't... Ah, there's the T-34. So he's captured. Now, the question is, am I behind him? And is he looking my way? And the answer to both those questions is exactly what I need them to be. Point blank into the back of the turret. Killed his gun crew. And we're now nicely dug in and we can start the recap. Of course, if we were turreted at this point, it would not be an issue, because I could cover both angles. As it is, I'm going to have to take a bit of a guess and assume that the enemy is going to come along the shortest route. So we'll lay the gun to the east, and then we'll pray that the artillery doesn't get fully engaged before some buddies turn up. And in fact, we have some friends, Panzer 4F2, KV-1, Panzer 3L. We have got some cross cover, so let's see if we can catch this Panzer 3. Nope, and I'm getting out of here before the artillery starts dropping onto my 10mm roof. Round the corner once again. Back into the main line of battle at this point. This is not where a Hetz does well, as you can see from the fact that, well, there's the issue. But he's reloading. We can at least get a shot in to avenge our colleague. I think he must have had ammo in the turret to detonate like that. Bit foolish in the Panzer III, but there you go. And it looks like this is the final victorious charge of the round. Ye gods, there's a verbal wind on the front lines? Fair enough, well, he'll mess up a light tank, no questions asked. Let's just peek around this corner, see what we get. Oop. So far, so little. That's mostly our weapons fire that's knocking those vehicles down. I think the enemy may actually be running out of tanks at this point. Verbal wind's firing at something, but I've got no contact marker as yet. Ah, KV-1. Let's see what we can do against you. This is one of the few times where Panzer Grenade 40 might be an idea. He, however, is round this corner, so getting aggressive, not a good idea against an enemy tank of any description in a Hetzer. But hey, 100 meters. Well, we'll go through his armor no matter what. Unfortunately, I think Comrade KV is looking my way. In fact, he is, but we can persuade him to bounce. The Sherman will come around the corner. And I'll just back up a little. Let the Sherman take the hits. Game's virtually over anyway. KV1 detonates, the bow fighter got him. And that's the end of the round. Pretty convincing. Hetz didn't contribute all that much, but we did turn point C at one point, and that flank attack probably gave the enemy something to think about. Came in at point 4, 5 kills, no loss, 5 crits off 17 hits, and... ooh, what's this? An engine upgrade to the Hetzer. Well, that's fair enough. I'd kind of been meaning to research that anyway.